Just want to say welcome to everyone to Core Values and Ethical Decision Making. Today, we're going to look at compassion as one of the core values of Kaskaskia College and some of the core values of some of you guys as y'all did your essays and wrote about yourself. We're going to have a brief PowerPoint slide and go through the lecture really brief. But then in the slides, there's a video I would like you to watch about Syria. And we'll get that to the in a moment. Your questions for the class for participation will be about the video. The link will be in the lecture. Also, the link is on your resource page, and I also will put it in the announcements. If you have any trouble accessing the link, please let me know. Reach out to me either via a text message, phone call, or email. So hope everyone's staying safe and sheltering in place, and we will get started. Again, today we're going to look at compassion and just what is compassion. Compassion is the ability to feel for another living human being. Compassion is the greatest virtue of Buddhism and many other religions, as we'll see. Buddhism says the greatest degree of tranquility comes from the cultivation of love and compassion. That simply means that we find the best peace in our life when we show love and compassion. Christianity is a religion that's founded on compassion as well. Love thy neighbor. If you look at the parables or the teachings of Jesus, they're all focused on love and compassion. Again, kind of goes back to Buddhism that the way to find peace in your own life is to show compassion and love for other people and other human beings and other things. The Chinese graph for Ren, you might have seen, is translated also as humanity or benevolence. Again, being with one another. And then you've also maybe heard the poem that says, express that no man is an island. And what the author was trying to say is the same thing is all three Chinese proverbs, Christianity, and Buddhism. He was trying to convey the same thing, but he didn't want you to think what an island. He wanted you to not think of what we see as an island, but what an island really is. Islands are a lot like people. If you're familiar with the poem, he says that on the surface we appear to be separated and independent, but yet under the surface, we're all linked together. Thus, your happiness is inseparable linked to the happiness you create for others, meaning that we're all connected in some way and somehow. The next is empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is the ability to not only understand another's feelings, but also to become one with that person's distress because you have been in that person's shoes. With empathy, you have experienced the same thing or similar experiences, meaning you can have empathy for someone who has had a death in their family because you have experienced the same death. You can have empathy for someone who's going through a divorce if you yourself has gone through a divorce. Kind of in the time we're going through now with the COVID-19 and everything, job loss. That's kind of the weird thing about this situation we're going through right now is neither one of us have been through this type of scenario before. So it's hard to have empathy. We can have compassion for one another, but we're all experiencing it together. So that's one thing that kind of divides us. So what is the difference between compassion and empathy? Compassion means to literally suffer together. Compassion is the feelings that arise when you are confronted with another suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. And one can have compassion without empathy. Again, empathy is more heartbreaking. You've experienced other people's pain and joy, and you may live your own all over again. You know what it feels like to lose someone. You know what it feels like to have a marriage ripped apart because you've been there. Empathy is a lot more heartbreaking and more devastating to us than compassion. Both are important. And you can't have empathy without compassion, but you can have compassion without empathy. because of the situation. They're both very powerful. So I don't want you to confuse empathy with sympathy. They're both words, they both rhyme, they're both close together. And sympathy is closer to compassion. And the best way to simply put this is if you feel sympathetic to someone, you send a sympathy card if your friend cat dies, say for example. That's sympathy. But you feel empathy if you've had a cat that had died too. I hope you can see the difference within the two. So now I'd like you to go and watch this frontline video about the children of Sierra, and it is an older video, but I encourage you to watch the whole thing. Again, if you have trouble with the link, please let me know, and we can get that to you. It will be in our announcements. The link, then it will be on the resource page on Blackboard, and it also will be here in this presentation. So feel free to click on that and go. After it's over, I'd like you to answer 3 questions for your participation points this week. That in the film, who did you feel compassion? Did you feel compassion for anyone? If so, then who was it? There's several people in the video, and you don't have to remember their names. Just put the sister, the father, the mother, the grandmother, or whoever. I mean, if you didn't, explain why. Why didn't you feel compassion toward anyone? The next is, did it change your view on Syria? We've heard Syria a lot in the news compared to what you've heard about. So did watching this whole video change your view on a whole country, or what you've been told, as opposed to seeing it? This film travels with them for a couple of years, then seeing it through their eyes and through the camera's eyes. And last but not least, can you relate anything you felt while watching this film to your own current situation? Did you feel in this current situation we're in, we're all locked in our house, we're all social distancing? Is there anything that we're going through now? We've had to change the way we interact with one another. We've had to change the way we educate. We've had to change our whole life and norms have been changed. Pretty soon we'll find a new norm. But can anything in this film relate to what you're going on now? Again, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I hope and prayer for you and your family is that you're safe. You're abiding by the rules, and it's the only way that we're all in this together, and it's the only way that we can defeat this and get back to a new normal. That's all I have. Again, answer your questions. The questions will be due by next Friday. That will be the 10th, April 10th. Again, take care of yourself and one another.